You ever sit in a room so quiet, your thoughts start to echo louder than the walls? That kind of silence isn't peaceful, it's surgical. It cuts. It exposes. It makes you question everything, your worth, your timing, and even whether God's still listening or if he just packed up and left town with someone else's prayers in his pocket. People romanticize silence. They paint it like some poetic waiting room filled with patience and soft music. But let me tell you, when it's your silence, when it's your name that's your ears being spoken, it doesn't feel poetic. It feels like punishment. But here's the thing about silence, not empty. It's loaded. It's where the real work happens, and most people miss it because they're too busy screaming into it, trying to force an answer instead of listening for the slave. The silence isn't where God forgets you, it's where he builds you. You're in a cocoon thinking it's a coffin because you can't tell the difference when you're not moving. But from the outside, something is forming. Something's coming alive. And it's funny, isn't it? We pray to be called, to be used, to be seen, but when heaven gets quiet, we panic. Like kids left alone in the dark, we start filling in the blanks with fear. Maybe I messed up. Maybe he changed his mind. Maybe I was never chosen at all. But that's not insight. That's insecurity dressed up like logic. That's your trauma trying to finish a story it was never meant to write. Because silence isn't the absence of God, it's the presence of weight. It's the pause before the shift, the breath before the storm, the space where he watches to see if your faith was tied to his voice or to his volume. Most people only follow God when they can hear him clearly. But the real ones, the ones who are actually dangerous to the darkness, they keep walking when it's quiet. They obey in the void. Because they know silence isn't abandonment, it's trust. That kind of silence is sacred and terrifying. Because it strips away your crutches. No signs, no confirmations. Just you and the last word he gave you over and over, like a drumbeat. And you start to realize maybe that last word wasn't outdated, maybe it was enough. Maybe you were just addicted to newness, to noise, to constant divine entertainment. People hate this part. They want fast answers, fast progress, fast purpose. But the silence slows you down on purpose. It's not punishment, it's pruning. He's cutting things off you that you still think you need. Pride, approval, addiction. The idea that you need to be seen to be significant. He's not ignoring you. He's conditioning you, rewiring your instincts, getting you to the point where even if he never speaks again, you'll still move like he did. That's next level faith. And it only comes from silence. You don't grow roots when the rain is falling. You grow them when it stops. When the surface dries up and you're forced to dig deeper than you ever thought you could. That's when the real you shows up. Not the you with the performance. Not the version they clap for. The raw you. The version that's not trying to impress anybody, just survive without losing your mind. That's where he shapes you. Not on stages. Not during breakthroughs. But in the middle of that still suffocating quiet. And what's wild is, the longer the silence, the heavier the name when it's finally spoken. That's why he couldn't say it too early. You would have run with it half developed, half healed, half aware. You would have wrecked yourself trying to perform a purpose you didn't have the character to carry. So he said nothing. Not because he didn't love you, but because he loved you too much to let you self-destruct with something sacred. And here's the irony, by the time he finally speaks your name, you're not the same person who was begging for him to say it. You're quieter, sharper, more dangerous. Because now you know the value of what silence built in you. You're not in love with the spotlight anymore. You don't crave the crowd. You understand now the silence wasn't just delay. You know what people don't realize? The moment your name is spoken by something bigger than this broken world, everything changes. Not just around you, but inside you. It's not like flipping a light switch. It's more like hearing a key turn in a lock you didn't even know was there. And suddenly, what felt like random pain, what looked like wasted time, it starts to make sense. Not all at once, no. But enough to feel. It in your bones, something just shifted. Now here's the part they don't warn you about. The shift isn't glamorous. It's not glitter and golden gates and angelic choirs. It's disruption. It's discomfort. It's your old life starting to glitch like a system that just got hacked. People treat purpose like it's some kind of trophy, but when your name is called, it's more like getting pulled into a war you weren't ready for. The version of you that was built to survive. That one starts to suffocate the moment your name gets spoken in heaven. Because survival isn't the assignment anymore, impact is. And impact, it's messy. It doesn't come with a map. Just instructions written in tension and trust. You'll walk into rooms that feel too big for your voice. You'll face mirrors that reflect things you're not proud of. Because when the shift happens, your illusion dies. The illusion that you had time. The illusion that you could keep playing small. The illusion that somebody else would do it. Nah, now it's you. You're the one. Whether you like it or not, it's a dangerous thing when heaven interrupts your regularly scheduled program. 'Cause now the excuses don't stick like they used to. The distractions don't satisfy. The drama doesn't entertain. You're sitting in conversations like, why am I still here? You're surrounded by people who still think you're who you used to be. But something inside you is changing the locks, boarding up the old rooms, preparing for an arrival you can't explain, only obey. This is where most people panic, because the shift feels like loss before it feels like purpose. You start losing taste for the stuff that once thrilled you. You feel disconnected from the very identity that used to keep you safe. And that's not a sign you're broken, that's the sign you've been called. And the problem with being called is you cannot unhear it. You can try. You can distract yourself, numb it, laugh it off. But once your name is spoken by something eternal, everything temporary starts to rot in your hands. You'll try to go back to normal, but normal won't recognize you. The places you once hid will start to spit you out. You'll feel like a misfit in rooms you used to dominate, not because they changed, you did. That shift doesn't just remove you from things. It removes things from you. And some of them you loved. But now they feel heavy. Now they feel fake. Now they feel like cages. And freedom has a cost. It always does. People want the calling without the collapse, but the shift breaks things. Old rhythms. Old relationships, old reflexes. It pulls back the curtain and forces you to see who you've really been. And let's be honest, some of that truth stings. It exposes how much you've settled, how long you've delayed, how you kept asking for a word from God, not realizing your own comfort was the thing clogging your ears. But that shift, it's holy, because it doesn't just show you what you are. It shows you what you're not anymore. You're not waiting for the world to approve you. You're not sitting around waiting to be chosen. Because when God speaks your name, it uninstalls permission culture from your soul. Suddenly, you're not looking for validation, you're looking for instructions. You stop asking, do I belong here? And start saying, where's the assignment? It's wild, really. How one word from God, not even a sentence, just your name, can rupture the entire structure of your identity. But that's what happens when the eternal speaks into the temporary. The system crashes, the mask slips, and what's left is someone raw, ready, and not here to play nice. Because once the shift happens, you realize you weren't born to blend in. You were born to disrupt, to disturb, to deliver. You know what's funny? People hear the word calling and they think it's some kind of cosmic compliment. Like heaven sent you a personalized invitation to be special. They treat it like a badge, like once you're called, everything gets easier. Doors open. Crowds cheer. Everything falls into place. But that's not how it works. That's not what calling is. It's not recognition, it's a reckoning. See, when God speaks your name, He's not just identifying you. He's initiating something. A process. A stripping. A reconstruction of the self you've been pretending to be just to survive in a world that rewards masks more than meaning. And suddenly everything you thought you were, all the habits, all the performances, All the well-managed versions of you start breaking under the weight of something real, something raw. You start to feel like a stranger in your own skin, like you're shedding a costume you didn't even know you were wearing. The calling doesn't flatter you, it exposes you. It holds up a mirror you can't look away from. And what you see, it's not always pretty. You see the ambition that was really insecurity. You see the smiles that were really shields. You see how much of your life was built around being accepted, not being out. And the worst part, you realize how comfortable you were in all that dysfunction, how much you depended on it, how much it became you. So now the voice that called you is also confronting you. And that's the twist. People want a purpose that elevates them, but real purpose dismantles you, piece by piece, not to destroy you, but to reveal you. And the revelation, it's not gentle. It doesn't hold your hand. It forces you to confront the truth. You've been hiding in roles, performing in pain, decorating your cage and calling it success. But now the illusion's cracked, and the light's coming in whether you're ready or not. Because calling isn't an escape route. It's not a shortcut to greatness. It's a mirror, a fire, a set of instructions carved into your spirit with a blade instead of a pen. It doesn't ask for your comfort, it demands your obedience. And obedience, real obedience, doesn't feel like glory. It feels like dying. Dying to the fantasy you built. Dying to the version of you that always needed to be liked, always needed to be in control, always needed to look strong while quietly falling apart. You want to know if someone's truly been called. Look at what they've lost. Look at how they walk through the fire, not if they avoid it. Look at the silence they endured before they ever spoke. Look at the weight they carry when no one's watching. That's where calling lives, not in applause, not in platforms, but in those quiet, brutal moments when you choose transformation over validation. In this world, it loves validation. It trains you to chase it. It programs you to believe that being seen equals being worthy. But purpose isn't always visible. Sometimes it isolates you. Sometimes it hides you. Sometimes it pulls you out of every room you thought you needed to be in, just to teach you how to breathe again without a mask. And that's terrifying, isn't it? To realize you've been performing so long you forgot who you were before the show started. But the calling doesn't care about the show. It waits for the curtain to fall. And when it does, it whispers, not praise, not promises, just truth. And that truth, it's like acid. It burns through your excuses, through your ego, through the false identities you built to survive rejection, heartbreak, abandonment. You hear your name and suddenly the act doesn't work anymore. You can't play small. You can't hide behind Buzzy. You can't pretend you didn't feel that shift. It got in your blood. So now you're not chasing dreams, you're shedding dead weight. You're not trying to impress, you're trying to become. You stop measuring success by what you build and start measuring it by what you're willing to break off. And that's the part nobody claps for. That's the part nobody posts. The part where becoming who you're called to be means burying who you've been, fully, publicly, and without apology. It's cute how people think purpose comes with peace. That once you figure out what you're meant to do, the universe just opens up and says, there you are, chosen one, and hands you a smooth inward with pretty signs and zero resistance. That's the myth they sell, that finding purpose means finding comfort. But real ones know better. Purpose doesn't calm the storm. It is the storm. It doesn't soothe your demons, it invites them to the surface. Because when purpose enters the room, everything fake starts choking. Everything fragile starts to crumble. The lies you told yourself to sleep at night, they start shaking under the pressure. Purpose doesn't just show you the light, it shines it on every corner you've been avoiding. And what you see is not always noble. It's not always heroic. Sometimes it's the truth that you were never lazy, you were just scared. You weren't unmotivated, you were unhealed. You weren't confused, you were avoiding clarity because clarity demands responsibility, and you didn't want that smoke. See, most people don't run from failure, they run from the version of themselves that purpose will force them to become. The version that doesn't get to blame their past anymore. The version that doesn't get to hide behind, well, this is just who I am. No. Purpose breaks that version apart like glass. It demands evolution. It doesn't ask for your permission. It kicks down the door and says, you ready to get honest yet? And if you're not, it waits. Not politely, though. It waits like a fire waits for dry wood. Quiet. But hungry. The irony is the people begging for clarity are the same ones who panic when it comes. Because clarity exposes the cost, and the cost is high. Relationships, patterns, illusions, all of it goes under the knife. Because when purpose walks in, mediocrity has to die. That cheap version of success you were willing to settle for. Dead, that story you kept telling yourself to feel safe. Shredded. And suddenly comfort starts to feel like confinement. You start walking different. Talking different. Thinking different. And people notice. They get uncomfortable. Not because you changed, but because you're no longer available for the roles they cast you in. You stop performing. Stop shrinking. Stop apologizing for wanting more than survival. And it makes people nervous because your purpose holds up a mirror to their stagnation. Your courage calls out their compromise, but here's the twist, it's not their reaction that hurts. It's yours. It's the grief of outgrowing people you loved. It's the ache of knowing some connections were built on your brokenness, and once you heal, they don't fit anymore. Purpose doesn't just elevate you, it isolates you, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because you can't carry divine weight with divided loyalty. You can't build what you're called to build if you're still addicted to being understood. And let's talk about the mental part. The war inside your own head. Because purpose doesn't silence your inner critic, it amplifies it. It dares you to confront it. All those voices telling you you're not ready. You're not enough. Who do you think you are? They don't disappear. They scream louder when you step up. But here's the thing, they only scream because they know they're about to lose. The voice of purpose doesn't drown out fear, it moves through it. It says, I hear you. Now get out of the way. That's where the shift really happens. Not when you feel strong, but when you move anyway. When you step into the fire, not because you're fearless, but because you're finally sick of being ruled by fear. That's the edge where purpose sharpens you. Not with applause. Not with comfort, but with confrontation. And confrontation doesn't mean fighting the world, it means fighting you. The old you. The comfortable you. The clever little version that found ways to survive but never learned how to live. You want to live now, don't you? Not exist, not blend. Not coast, live. But here's the price, everything that kept you safe must go. Because purpose doesn't partner with safety. It partners with sacrifice. And sacrifice doesn't feel holy when you're in it. It feels like loss, like confusion, like madness, but somewhere in the chaos you realize this pain has direction. This fire has a blueprint. And that voice you heard, the one that called your name, wasn't just giving you permission to rise. It was daring you to. You ever notice how quiet it gets after the calling? Not the peaceful kind of quiet, no, not that. This is the kind of silence that hums like a warning. The kind that wraps around your ears and makes you question everything you thought was solid. Because once your name gets spoken not by people, but by something higher, something eternal, the noise of the world starts to fade, and the noise inside you gets louder. You start seeing things differently. People don't talk about that part. They talk about destiny like it's this glowing staircase to the sky, but they forget to mention the darkness that shows up first. Because here's the deal, before the breakthrough comes the breaking. And before the breaking, the stripping. It's subtle at first. Things that used to click just don't anymore. Conversations feel shallow. Ambitions that used to fuel you feel pointless. You laugh at the wrong jokes. Nod at the wrong people and walk into rooms where your own reflection starts to disgust you. Not because you're fake, but because you've outgrown your disguise, the old life. It doesn't fit anymore. It's like wearing someone else's skin, and every moment you try to keep it on feels like betrayal. Not to others, to yourself. You start feeling detached, not lost, not broken. Just like a ghost walking through your own story. The habits, the crowds, the routines, they're still there, but your soul has already moved on. It's scouting new territory while your body's stuck in yesterday. That's where the silence creeps in. Not because God went mute, but because you're finally being left alone with what's real. And what's real doesn't shout. It whispers. And most people, they panic in that whisper. They run back to the noise, to the fake certainty, to the chaos they know, because silence, that kind of silence, it demands honesty. It makes you face the mirror, not the one on the wall, the one within your soul. The one that shows you everything you've been running from. Every compromise. Every time you played small just to keep the peace. Every time you let their expectations write your script. That's what gets stripped away when your name gets called. Not just distractions, identities. And here's the sick joke of it all. You start missing things you hated. You crave the comfort of dysfunction because at least it was familiar. That job you despised, that relationship you knew was hollow. That version of you who smiled on cue, at least you knew the rules there. But now, you're in the wilderness. And there are no signs, no map. Just you and that name echoing somewhere in the distance. The one heaven spoke. They. One hell heard. The one you're trying to live up to without losing your mind. You don't feel called. You feel crazy. You start second-guessing everything. Did I imagine it? Was that even real? But the damage is already done. You can't unknow it, can't unsee it. You've been marked. You've been moved. And no matter how much you try to go back, the doors are locked. The party's over. The act is done. And you're standing in the aftermath with your hands full of pieces, trying to make sense of the new blueprint that hasn't even printed yet. People won't get it. They'll think you're cold, distant, selfish even, but they don't know what it's like to be undone by a whisper. To have everything inside you rearranged without your permission. They'll say you've changed, and they'll be right. But it's not the kind of change they're used to. This change doesn't come with an applause track. It comes with isolation, with inner earthquakes, with a voice in your chest that keeps